Okay, so what's today's video about? It's called Balloon Chasers, and let me try and explain what balloon chasers are. There's certain people who live in Pattaya, guys, this is, and a lot of them, they've just retired too early. They haven't got enough money to sustain themselves, or they're living on very, very little money, and they're just diehards. Whatever it takes, they just won't go back to their country, and basically they can't afford to be there. You know, they're living very cheap, as cheap as they can. And what the balloon chasers are, there's a lot. If you've been to Pattaya, you know there's literally thousands of bars in Pattaya, and they close and they open all the time. They have birthday parties, and there's a lot of celebrations around the bars. It's about business at the end of the day, and if they have a party, it generally attracts more people. They can put the word out there's a party, and more people will attend that bar. So what the balloon chasers are, when these bars have these parties, they put lots and lots of balloons out. They normally wrap them around the front door to the bar. So you know, you'd have to be Stevie Wonder when you walk past that bar if you didn't know there was a party going on that night. It's just so obvious. They put banners outside, balloons. And these guys that I'm talking to you about, what they do, they like to go to these parties or these openings of bars because it's all free. So what a bar will do on an opening night, they'll have they'll lay on food, a kind of a buffet, simple buffet, but you know, it's free. And they might do free drinks for the first sort of hour, or maybe not free drinks, discounted drinks, something like that. But what the balloon chasers do, they're always on the hunt for these bars that are having parties and freebies. The bar owners actually detest these guys because they'll never come back and spend any money in the bar. What they'll do, they'll go in there, they'll eat for free, and they'll drink for free if they can. Once the bell goes and it's not free anymore, they'll finish what they've got in their hand and they'll go back and buy a beer from 7-Eleven. As I say, the bar owners absolutely detest these guys because what they'll do, they know every happy hour, every discount that's going on, and that's how they live their lives. The other thing they do for entertainment, they can't obviously afford to go into go-go bars or regular bars and buy drinks. But they don't want to sit in their room on a Saturday night. So you'll see them, if you're a regular to Pattaya, what they'll do, they'll buy a beer in 7-Eleven, and then they'll go and talk to the girls who are outside the bars. You know, you get these girls who they hold these plaques up that they're basically trying to entice you into the bar. Then there's a lot of pretty girls out on the street, and what these guys do, they buy a beer from 7-Eleven, and they just have make their own entertainment on the street. They sit on the steps outside of 7-Eleven, and they'll try and talk to these girls. But again, the thing with the Thais, they're very, very polite. They won't say anything. But again, these girls, they're not interested in these guys because they become regular faces. The girls know who the tourists are or who the guys who live there who spend money are, and they know who they call them cheap Charlies. They know these guys. And as I say, they are polite. They won't say anything horrible to them, but they just don't, they're not interested in them whatsoever because they're there every weekend and that's how they get their entertainment. It's not just Pattaya that it happens. I mean, I remember years ago, there was a go-go bar that opened in Nana Plaza. It was called the Big Mango. It was on the second floor. You walk into the plaza, up the escalators, and it was on your right there. And I remember the manager from that particular go-go bar, he was telling somebody a story. For whatever reason, when that go-go bar opened, they couldn't get customers to come into the go-go bar, or they got very little customers. So as a promotion, what they'd do is the first hour that they opened every evening, they'd give away free local beer. And you've got to be pretty desperate to give away free alcohol. But what would happen is, and they'd lay on food as well. Sorry, I forgot that bit. They'd lay on a bit of a buffet every single night, and they'd give free alcohol. But in order to tuck into the buffet, as it were, help yourself to the buffet, you had to have a beer. And what had happened is the manager from the Big Mango, he was telling this person, he said, I actually had to police the bar because, believe it or not, what people would do when they found out they couldn't, you know, originally they'd walked in from the street and they just helped themselves to the buffet. And obviously that's not on. So they brought this rule in that you have to have a beer. And then once you've got a beer, you can help yourself to the buffet. But obviously that's assuming that you buy the beer behind the bar. But what these guys were doing, they were going to 7-Eleven and they were buying a beer and they were actually walking into the bar. And when they were challenged, they were actually saying, well, I've got a beer. And they just couldn't get it that you can't go to 7-Eleven, buy a beer and then walk into somebody's bar and eat their food. But that's what they were trying to do. So that manager had actually had to police the bar and watch these guys. So, you know, some people just they don't get embarrassed. You know, I mean, I couldn't do that. I feel so embarrassed, but these guys don't seem to mind. So that's what it is. If you ever hear the term balloon chasers, you now know what they are. And I just thought I'd share this little story with you. Okay.